All right. Hello and welcome back to 2 Bits and Cents Investing. I'm Ricky and I'm joined by Robert as always. Robert, how was your week?
Doing good, my man. Not so much for the stock market, but I was doing well.
Good. Yeah, let's talk about that. What are some of the stocks that took a hit this week and which ones did well for you?
Pretty much everybody took a hit this week. It was a bad week overall. Blink actually did really well for me, but other than that, not a lot. What about yourself?
Blink BLNK, they're at the charging infrastructure company. That's
Yep.
interesting. I think how do the other ones do? Like how did ChargePoint and how do they do?
Well, actually, while we're talking about ChargePoint, as of tomorrow, so February the 11th, they're actually having a special meeting at noon. Did you get your invite?
No, I actually I sold ChargePoint a while back, but I actually was thinking about buying it just to understand the entire SPAC process and how you go from SPAC through merger and the entire journey, if you will. So I might buy in tomorrow morning just for the
Okay.
science of it.
Well, so the whole thing behind the meeting tomorrow is they're doing the announcement of whether or not they're going to officially change over to ChargePoint, and in which case their new ticker symbol will be CHPT, which I think is quite an appropriate new chapter that they're going into. So ChargePoint, as of right now, they're sitting at 39.30. They're up under a little bit from their 52 week of 49, but they're still going well. I think it's going to be really good to see them come through and change over to ChargePoint here soon.
Yeah.
What about
So
you, Ricky? What did you have any
quick,
viewpoints?
yeah, quick correction. I do still have some ChargePoint. I divested a fair bit of it, but I kept some. And yeah, I was up like 180% overall with ChargePoint. It's been a great stock. I think it was around the time with Lucid and CCIV and a couple other things, so I divested. But good, good, good returns on that one. I can't complain. The surprise for me for the week was actually Sundial Growers, which is a cannabis company we've talked about in the past. I think I mentioned that I bought some last week on the show, but it has done really well. It is up about 100% today, which is stupid, and 450% since I bought in like at the beginning of the year, like January 1st. So
Wow.
they're doing really well.
I
The
mean,
market cap.
having said that, when I purchased Fun FUV for Archimoto, they're now up since I purchased them about 18%. So I'm really happy about that as well.
That was for my recommendation.
From your recommendation.
Yeah, so FUV has just been ticking along up another couple percent here today, and not and about 100% for the month. But overall, Archimoto has been doing really well as well. And actually, there was some talk about the Wall Street bet guys potentially propping up some cannabis stock next. So that's not really why I bought into it, but there's a couple of others that I've also looked into, which are TLRY, ticker symbols TLRY, and also APHA, which is APHA, which are both again in the marijuana space. So they there's going to be a big surge of this, I think, especially as more states legalize it. And when that happens and people start to realize there's a lot of money to be made in taxation on cannabis products and stuff, I'm all for it. And as far as kind of our tagline about investing in the future you want to believe in, I think cannabis stocks for me are important because I'd much rather see like family growers and even big business growers of cannabis than the ridiculous rampant overusage of prescription drugs. So
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not really much of a marijuana user myself, but I'm wholeheartedly in favor of it. I have been in favor of it for since I was like out of high school, college, because I think it could be a major way of raising revenue for states. And so I'm just glad that California is on board and other people are following suit. Is it legal in Texas, by the way?
No, it is not. Not even for medicinal purposes yet. But I have a feeling that I'll be coming here pretty soon. So
Gotcha. Yeah. So that was the big surprise of the day. And as far as some of the underperformers, Tesla's had like the first bad week that I can remember in a long time.
Yeah.
Look back at the
I
graph.
mean, they're down to like 800 now, I believe.
Yeah. So I took that as an opportunity. I added some money into a E-Trade account and recently, and it's just been sitting on the sidelines. I was trying to figure out what to do with it. I bought a little bit of Tesla with that. So I bought at the dip, probably around 805, 810. And so as a result,
you could extend that a little bit because it's sitting at 804 right now. So maybe you get one more share.
yeah, I've already got a decent holdings in Tesla, and whenever these kinds of dips happen, and I've got money that I'm looking to put somewhere, I'll typically buy it. I've mentioned it to you in the past, but for me, Tesla is a really nice place to park your cash. I don't look at Tesla shares very often. They have so much momentum at this point, and we've kind of talked about like our projections of where they're headed. I think this is a $1,200 stock, possibly within a year or two. So as far as like 50% growth in a very healthy and stable industry with a very large cap company like Tesla, no pressure. Sundial growers, some of the other things I've got money in right now, the CCIV merger, which hasn't happened yet with Lucid Motors. I have some higher risk plays out there as well. I try to keep that part about 25% of my portfolio, 25-30% of my portfolio is a little bit higher risk. And Tesla is a great place to put money if you can afford to get it in at a dip. So that's kind of the thought process there. And just generally looking at my other stuff, FUV had a pretty decent day, but those are the majority of my holdings. I was actually going to tell you, I'm thinking about maybe not a lot, but maybe a couple $1,000s worth of all of Chamath's Spac companies, IPOE, and there's a couple of others, and just wait and hold. You trust him to do the right thing. IPOE is interesting, and I do have IPOE shares.
He's never led us wrong on any of these other things.
Yeah.
So I think that he's definitely one to follow. He definitely does his research and does it well. So
IPOE is one I bought recently. IPOE is going to be the SPAC that forms that takes SoFi public, and SoFi is this kind of really modern, high-tech lending platform, and I loved it. When I got married, I took out a little loan for our wedding. I remember paid it off really quickly, but I needed some extra money for that point in my life, and it was a really easy process. The entire thing was really high-tech, and that's what I loved about it. I kind of Rocket Mortgage, which is what I would recommend at this point for mortgages. Again, a really like fine-tuned, high-tech, kind of modernized company. But I thought it was a really cool platform. They've got really, really interesting aspects of their business, and they have a brokerage house as well. So they've got like you can buy and sell stock with SoFi. So
that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, really cool company, and I'm all for that. And he has a couple of others that haven't identified targets yet. But if you've got like a little bit of money and you want to take a little bit of just kind of roll the dice and see what comes up, they're out there. So that's kind of the breakdown this week. But yeah, because of my large share of Tesla, and the fact that the Churchill Capital CCIV was down today, overall kind of a bad day. But Sundial growers was just huge.
Well, part of that was also Jerome Powell coming out on the Federal Reserve and having his talk at lunchtime with everybody. That kind of put a damper on all the what would have been big movers for the week. So.
Jerome, no relationship to you. He's not your dad.
No relation. No. He's. I wish, but no. Unfortunately, I could get some inside trader information if that was the case. But no, it's he's no relation. But he is the head of the reserve. He came out and he was talking about the basically the economic state of the country, and where he saw the reserve and where he saw the finance section going. I unfortunately missed it. I actually had to do my job, so I unfortunately missed it.
We'll do a little recap of that in the future, maybe next week or something. We can kind of cover that because that kind of stuff really matters. And obviously, if you're looking to invest, you got to understand the market.
Parts down the road. So
exactly. So I think it's a good time to kind of move over to probably the most interesting news of the week was. You want to talk about Tesla buying Bitcoin with some of their reserve?
Tesla and their Bitcoin. So for those of you that aren't familiar, the SEC has a tool called Edgar. And Edgar is a filing assistant, basically. And so whenever a company makes a filing, or they place an order through and take care of it, it has to go through Edgar. And I'm subscribed on Edgar, and so therefore I'm able to get the notifications. And Tesla disclosed that they have invested $1.2 billion in Bitcoin utilities to catch over on Bitcoin. So now they can actually take orders from the when you place your Tesla in Bitcoin as well. So if you happen to have a spare 33,000 Bitcoin, speaking of which, Bitcoin crashed over today at $46,000. So if you have one full Bitcoin, you can buy yourself one Tesla. So that's it. I like that, Ricky. It's a nice trade. One Bitcoin, one Tesla. I mean, I'll be okay with that.
Maybe he was waiting for the value of Bitcoin to reach like a critical value where like a coin could get you a car, and he jumped in. Yeah, this has kind of been rumbled.
The thing is, it was based on his investment that bought up the straight price of Bitcoin. I mean, there's a direct relation to when he came out and was talking about Doge, and Doge spiked. The Doge spike ended up bringing up Bitcoin spike. The Bitcoin spike was, just rallied everyone else. Ethereum just went through the roof. And Bitcoin's just been going up and up and up for the past 2 days since he mentioned it. And then, of course, this morning they've released the announcement of $1.2 billion investment in Bitcoin and blockchain technology, so that you can actually purchase your Tesla with Bitcoin. So that's going to be it's going to be an interesting. What do you think about that as the way of the future? Where you use Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general to purchase, your Tesla or your Rivian, or any of those other ones.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, the price of a Bitcoin went from 37,000 to 47,000 with the Elon and the Tesla news, and this happened in the past as well. I bought a little bit of Bitcoin at 23-ish, and there were some companies. I think Square, for example, mentioned that they're going to have some holdings in Bitcoin with their reserve money, instead of leaving it in the bank account as U.S. dollars. So this is a trend that I'm starting to see, and I think more companies are going to follow suit. And when that happens, I think the price of Bitcoin is going to go just kind of through the roof. And by the way, you asked me about how I feel about Bitcoin as a way of buying and shopping for cars. What does it mean if I buy a Tesla with a Bitcoin? Technically, as far as like filings or like the tax ramifications of it all, there's question marks, I think. And most regulators and most governments are scared to death about Bitcoin because for the first time in human history, we actually have a distributed way to not have any one individual control our currency, which was never possible before. By the way, interesting little side effect of Bitcoin. People have done the math on all the computers. You have a mining rig with 5 or 6 GPUs right now running. Yep. It's probably running on like 500 or 600 watts of power mining Bitcoin.
Actually, it's sipping quite nicely at 218 watts.
Oh wow, you have it powered down a little bit. Okay, but
yeah, there's tweaked down, but the hash rate on it is still significantly up there. It doesn't bother me. Okay. It still mines along nicely.
Yeah, so the only way you can have a distributed ledger of everyone's coins and who has what is if you have tons of people around the world all mining and competing to solve the next problem and to verify the next transaction block and to keep Bitcoin humming along. The side effect of that is they use a lot of electricity. And one comment I made on Twitter, which I don't even know how you'd calculate this, is, the US dollar is not like it's free. You have how many banks in the world all have their lights on, electricity, how many people drive to work in banks. I mean, there's a huge carbon footprint to currency anyway. Visa and all the transactional companies that build upon the US dollar and everything else, all the currency exchanges and banks and all that. So it's not like the US dollar is a perfectly clean, environmentally eco-conscious choice and then Bitcoin is a dirty polluter. But there is truth in the fact that Bitcoin does produce a ton of CO2 emissions. So does it really fit in with Tesla's grand plan? There was some debate there, and I think that's something that maybe Elon should be asked and talk about in an interview. But the bigger picture, I think, is you have a lot of people, especially the more libertarian people, the people who don't like or don't have as much faith in the government and the Federal Reserve just printing new currency at the cost of potential future inflation, and wanting to park their asset in, their on-hand reserves of cash for their companies in Bitcoin.
It's interesting. Bitcoin is one of those utilitarian things that. So I mean, I was doing the math on it the other day. So I'm into drones as well, and I bought a drone called an RV jet, which is a big flying wing. And I actually purchased it with Bitcoin, and at the time it was $600, which equated to Bitcoin was, I think, 0.00001 coin. This was about a year and a half ago. And I did the conversion. I was just curious because of this giant spike. I went back and I looked it up. And so that 500 now that I paid for that is now worth over 2,500 for what it is, effectively rolled into. So I effectively paid $2,500 as of now for a $500 drone, about a year and a half ago. So somebody's made off with my money, and I want it back.
Yeah, it's so funny. People talk about I'm up on Bitcoin, but if you use Bitcoin as a way of shopping, how funny is that? Well, I never thought of it like that, but yeah, there might be people saying the same thing about their car.
You pay one Bitcoin now for one Tesla. So Tesla is, $64,000. So, we're just going to call it that Bitcoin's actually at 64,000. What happens if the price of Bitcoin drops? What happens if it drops down to, back to the $4,000, $5,000 mark? Does that mean you just got away with one Tesla for $4,000 or $5,000?
Yeah, well, the thing though is it's a deflationary currency. There's 21 million coins that ever will be. And by the way, I was reading an article, and this is the part that scares me about Bitcoin, and this is why I don't just tell anyone to look into it. You're a tech-savvy person like you. Clearly, you know about wallet security and all that stuff. But the reality is 20% of all Bitcoins, and there's not that many of them to begin with, are unaccounted for. They are in accounts where people forgot their passwords. They don't have their keys, their public keys, and so they're stuck. They're screwed. The money is gone.
Yep.
So first of all, it is not a good medium of storage if you can't keep it secure. Gold, I guess, if you have gold in your house and someone breaks in and steals it, it's kind of the same thing, I guess. But
no, a friend of mine actually, when Bitcoin started, he actually purchased 73 coin at like $1.50 or $2, back when it first came out, and he purchased it on his Android phone that he had. Well, the battery died on it. He lost the memory on it, and it disappeared. So he lost the wallet. And so that 73 coin that's just sitting there, he can never access ever again. We were talking about it the other day because it was reaching 5,000 before the whole entire inflation hit. And he was like, I don't even want to do the calculation on how much it is. So I texted him this morning when it reached 42, and I said, I bet you're still not doing those calculations, are you?
Yeah, that's painful. I've heard similar stories as well. So first and foremost, you have to understand, in the exchanges upon which you buy Bitcoin. I've used Coinbase in the past. I think you mentioned you use Coinbase, right?
Yep.
And then you're going to talk about the physical wallet and how you handle all that stuff. Leave us your comment if you want us to dig into this further, or maybe you guys are pros. I'm not really sure where you guys are at, but if you want us to cover this more in the future, let us know. The big point here, though, is this is not a fad. I believe that more companies are going to do this because why not hold on to a deflationary currency instead of an inflationary one? If I really do think that Bitcoin is going to be destined to become incredibly valuable. The only drawback there is you almost, to your point, you never want to spend it. If you know that you spend 0.0000001 Bitcoin to buy a loaf of bread, that loaf of bread will end up costing you $500 because that Bitcoin went up in value because of deflation. But so for that reason, it really is more of a storage medium. You have a lot of money and you need to find a place to park it that won't lose out to interest and deflation and inflation. Well, Bitcoin really probably is good for that. Ethereum has valuable traits that make it maybe potentially a better transactional coin. But what's also funny is Elon kind of pumped Dogecoin and then goes and makes this announcement about Bitcoin. He's all over the place, and he's an oddball that way. But You can see the
Yeah, but
power that
he's
he
like
wields.
Doge since the very beginning, since it first came out and first inception. He was all on Doge, and he made, he was one of the main founders. Well, wasn't a founder, but he was one of the main pumpers at the beginning, and really pumped a lot into Doge and actually gave it the boost that it needed. Meanwhile, everyone's making memes about it. He was the one that was saying he was serious about it. And then, of course, now this week, he pumped it again, and then he went and made this announcement about Bitcoin in general, and the Tesla investment. I mean, that's not a small chunk of change to throw in an investment system like that. 1.2 billion buying up Bitcoin dirty assets for investment into your company. That's got to be a lot of faith in it. So.
Yeah, really. I bought and sold back in 2017 when the first wave, the first craze kind of happened, and it peaked around 17 and then dropped down to 3,500 ish. But at that point, to be honest with you, my belief in Bitcoin was more curiosity than like real proven track record. My belief in Bitcoin now is I really think Bitcoin is going to be a massive player, and the number of companies that will be doing this where they hold their reserves in Bitcoin is going to increase. And when it does, and there's like a critical level of like investment, the price of these coins are going to go through the roof. So if you want to kind of just get a little taste of it, $500, $100, whatever it is, go to Coinbase and you can buy some fractional bit of Bitcoin that you could at least have to keep and track and stuff. But yeah, when I bought my last round of Bitcoins was around
investment strategy, and it's definitely an investment base to pull it on. It's one of those things. I mine it, so it's rewarding to me to see it. I get updates every 3 hours on the mark, because that's where NiceHash does the deposits, and every 3 hours I get a deposit, and it's nice. It's basically pumping out currency. Of course, I have solar and I have battery at the house, so my solar is charged. But my solar charges my batteries, and then the whole house runs off the batteries. So it's kind of free energy, but not quite. Today, however, it was cloudy, overcast, and downright miserable, and so I didn't get anything out of it today.
Yeah, that happens too. But that's kind of, I think, the big coverage or the story that we wanted to cover here today. And what this means. I'm kind of curious as well. Leave us your comment. If you found out a company that you're tracking or you're invested in is going to do this, where they're going to buy into Bitcoin, do you see that as a positive thing or a negative thing? Because I've kind of seen it both ways. There's a lot of people who really believe in Bitcoin, and there's some people who just don't think that it's a good idea, who kind of point to the downfalls. And there are some downfalls. But at the same time, how many things do you know that have been around for 10 years that are still working? I'm serious. Like in the last 10 years, how many times have the credit bureaus been hacked, or your favorite companies, or your credit card has been stolen, or things like that? Things have happened, and all that time, Bitcoin has been chugging away, safe and secure. Yeah. So I think as far as the critical level of trust, it's probably there now. The kinds of people that I'm seeing getting
there. There's more and more companies that are incorporating it. I mean, the other thing to talk about this week is also Rivian. Do you want to talk about them?
Sure, jump into it. Let's go, Mr. Shareholder.
So car holder, not quite shareholder yet, but that's the breaking news. They're going to go IPO by the early fall of this year. They're not going to go the reverse Spac route. They're not going to go the Spac route. They're going to go the traditional IPO, put a share up and go for it. They're definitely on the right track. I think an IPO for them is definitely the secure way to go. It's the less risky way to go. But also they've and have you seen them around your neighborhood, Ricky? The Amazon Rivian trucks.
No,
they're
not
out full force in California. Apparently they've released about 350 of them into the wild, reading between 150 and 200 miles of range, when fully loaded. And they drive around with that really annoying buzzer that just goes off the whole entire time. Part is the safety standard that they've got, but they're out, and I think them going IPO is it's a mixed bag because that means they've got to answer to the shareholders, but I think there's enough backing behind them that the shareholders won't really hold their feet to the fire. I think they're gonna be, pretty self-sustaining on their own. So what do you think about that, Ricky?
It'll be a longer road, but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise to me. It shouldn't be. That's how most companies have gone public. But we're talking about Lucid potentially with the Spac, which hasn't been officialized yet, but that is the rumor. And then you hear about Rivian doing it this way. So first of all, I hope they're well underway, because if they want to have this by August or in the fall, it's going to take a long time, which is one of the downsides of going the traditional IPO route. So hopefully they have all their ducks in a row.
They haven't filed any paperwork yet. They haven't, announced their official IPO. They haven't announced any of that, and those usually take between 6 to 9 months to do.
Yeah,
on the quick way to do it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that could be. We'll keep you posted as that kind of unfolds a little bit here. But those are the companies that I'm really interested in. I know you are as well. Robert has a reservation for an R1T. Hopefully he has that in the next month or two, coming up pretty quick, right?
No, it's going to be probably closer to September time.
Okay.
So while I am reservation number 328, and RJ, if you're listening, I would gladly let you bump me up the line. I'm just saying, just saying, if you want to move me up the line, we can do a video on it. We can make this all work. It'd be really great. But as of right now, I'm still about number 3,000. So it's going to be probably a little bit. They're planning to put out 1,500 a month. The plan to start, end of July, beginning of August timeframe. So take 2 months added on to that. September, October sounds about right. So.
Got it. Yeah, we've kind of joked, if COVID ever clears up, which sometimes I wonder, but I would fly out and Robert and I could maybe even take delivery in Michigan and drive down to Houston where he lives and kind of chronicle that entire journey, which I think would be a blast.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I think it'd be a blast.
I'd have to make a detour through California to come drop you off, and then I'll drive back home to Houston.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll figure that out. But those are the companies that we're looking at this week. As always, please let us know what companies you're thinking about or what industries. You mentioned batteries. That is on our list. We are going to do a deeper dive into batteries. I know we've talked about some other areas as well. But as always, thank you guys for watching.
It's probably next week, and specifically some of the battery EFTs. I think. What do you think? A battery-based episode next week, Ricky?
Yeah, I think we're due for that. We'll put in the legwork and we'll bring you a special on batteries. And clearly, I think that's one of the areas that you guys should all be interested in investing in, because the battery really is going to be at the core of all that we do going forward. So yes,
Tesla fully said it the other day. The whole reason that the Semi isn't out is because there's just a shortage of batteries. They can't pump out batteries in quick enough to get them onto the road. So I definitely think the batteries and the lithium, the cobalt, and all the rest of the minerals that go with it, the nickel, are definitely going to play a factor into it. So be interesting.
Absolutely. And if there's anything else, any other industries or companies you want us to look into, let us know. Leave us your comments. We will read them all, and we'll get back to you, and we'll try to cover it in a future episode, right?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. This is 2 Bits and Cents. We are going to be recording, I think, for a few more to kind of work everything out, and this will be a live show hopefully soon. We'll keep you posted.
Sounds good to me.
And if there's any breaking news and the things that we talk about, CCIV, anything else, we will do a special, and we'll cover that. So don't you worry. Otherwise, we'll see you guys all next week, as always.
See you guys.
Take care.